Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to Leading Our Own Way. It's part 4 here on YouTube on Leading Our Own Way. We're with the amazing Aaron Schultz this week, who's been an incredible guest, been an incredible journey, and given me so much to reflect on in terms of men's behaviour. We talk about domestic violence and how he wants to prevent that. We left part 3 yesterday on the edge where part of his journey began. A few things did happen before this, but at the age of 21, he lost his friend to suicide, and he spent the last night with him. And he's going to go into that night and really how that changed the trajectory of his life and where he went off and really where he's gathered himself to help lead his own way. And he goes real deep. Anyway, let's get right back with Aaron, and please enjoy the episode and share it amongst anybody that you may know who can benefit from Aaron's wisdom.
A mate of mine took his life, and I was the last person to see him, and that sort of really rocked me back then. But I sort of didn't really understand it or heal or grieve from that. Pushed it aside, and I knew I could have saved him that night possibly, but I also know now that experience taught me something that has led me to doing what I'm doing now. You know, it just took a while to realise that, and so that was a big one. And yeah.
So that night you were with him, sorry. Did everything seem normal, or did he give any signs? Because people watch this and they're living in that life that you mentioned. We're all distracted. We're not in tune with ourselves nor other people. I really want for people to be aware and take our personal experiences and put it into their life to be more aware and self-aware. So that night, and this is where I've kind of got off on a tangent there, but that night, was it a normal night, or did you feel something?
No, we were smoking marijuana at the nurse's home.
All right.
And he dropped me off at my place after it, and I didn't sense anything until the last words that he said to me. He said, "As I'm talking to death."
He said what? Sorry.
So my nickname was As, short for Aaron, and he said, "As I'm talking to death."
Oh,
so
what did he mean by that exactly?
I didn't know at the time. So he's sitting in the driver's seat, I'm sitting in the passenger seat, and I just put my hand on his shoulder and said, "You'll be right, mate." And he needed more than that, but I didn't really understand. There was something behind it. The only thing that I could pick up on was potentially, and I still to this day, was potentially a girlfriend problem. But I think there was a lot more than that. I really haven't explored it or gone into it more deeply, but so he drove off and shot himself that night. But I had a gut feeling that something was the matter, and I made some phone calls the next morning, went to the police, and the police told me that's what had happened. He drove towards Adelaide, he shaved his head, and he got a shotgun out, and that was it. And I went to his funeral, a week later, and there's a lot of people there. And, I just, I saw his dad in the supermarket after it, and I went up to him and said, "Look, we were smoking marijuana before this had happened. This, that, now that he never said anything to me," and that sort of moved on. It's interesting how the journey has evolved, but since then, one of the friends that was with us that night, he's become a clinical psychologist. And I've sort of taken another path, but I still see him living in fear, and he still smokes marijuana to this day.
Oh, wow.
So, there's a lot that sort of, come from that experience, and that boy, which he was at the time, should be still here. Because he was a beautiful kid. He really was. Just a wonderful, fun-loving, intelligent, gifted, sportingly gifted kid that was just going through a tough time that I didn't see or never come out. There was obviously something underneath it all, which he was never able to express. And maybe he was feeling safe with me that night to express something, but I didn't take it. You'll be right, mate. Wasn't what he needed to hear. It was like, mate,
you didn't know though.
What's going on for you? what's going on for you.
So the next few days, weeks, months, and I say this because I ask this because, again, if people are listening and going through it themselves, because we've had many on like this, but everything's different and we all lead in our own way, hence the title of the podcast. For the next few days, weeks and months and years, how did they look for you, and what did you do to work through your emotions? Did you suppress them? Paint the picture for us of how that might have looked.
Absolutely. The word that came to mind is nothing. So, just put it aside, ignored it, knew in the back of my mind that I felt compassion or some feeling. I didn't feel anger or anything. He's weak as piss because he's gone and done this, none of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It was suppressed. That was like, drinking, drugs, marijuana, no, nothing else. So, it was suppressed and just put in the back pocket and never dealt with or healed. We had to go to the police and talk about, our experience, what had happened. I think we felt shameful to talk about the marijuana thing at the time. We said we were together rather than smoking marijuana to the police, because we probably thought we could have been punished for that. So
fear again, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you see where it generates and is born from. So that wasn't really resolved, and it wasn't until a few years ago at Mensa I started to feel free to talk about it. And like I was living at home with my parents at the time, and they never asked me how I was going.
Really?
There's none of that sort of thing, and that still goes on today with people.
Yeah. Did you have a close relationship with your parents?
It's interesting. I reckon in general, yes, but there was never that literacy to go to those levels. Shut up, don't talk about it, deal with it. This, that, the other. That's a model. I look at my dad. His father got gassed in World War One, and my uncle got shot in World War Two, and he was getting prepared to go and didn't go. But so there's a lot of that, rolled down, and that tension that gets held in the body. And my grandfather died pretty early when he came back, but there was also a lot of trauma which he took on, that went into my father, potentially, and he was born after he came back. So
was it his father that got gassed? Did you say?
Yeah.
He died being gassed.
He died when he came back, just from various health issues. But I think
he didn't die being gassed over there.
No, he actually survived to come back.
Oh wow. Oh Jesus! I didn't know that even existed. I thought they would have just put him back in there.
Yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of it all, but that's what I've been told. Yeah. So it's an interesting one. But so you can sort of see where a lot of it plays out and how that lineage starts to roll downhill. And then those stuck mindsets about this is it for life. But if you can break the cycle, stop. And so there's got to be more, than living in suffering all the time. I don't think my dad lived in suffering. He was just content, play golf, few beers, had his house paid off, this, that, the other, married mum. My mum had a lot of trauma too, and that's why I do the domestic violence prevention, because she was raped as a young girl and never told anyone about it until, before she died, and she told me about it then. And she had shame, and it wasn't her fault, lived in this shame cycle. So if you look at it in its essence, trauma from my dad's side, trauma from my mum's side, that was never disclosed or opened up or moved through. And I think 9 out of 10 people walking around in society are like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep, absolutely. So this is why we've got to start to work towards a pathway of healing and normalise that and not accept suffering as a normal way of life, because it's not meant to be. And that happiness is our birthright, as I mentioned, and we've got to get back to, okay, this is how I'm truly meant to be. When I go into these forms of suffering, my body tells me maybe I need to do something to change it. And what can I do to keep myself into alignment again?
Yeah. I walk a lot, and I take my dog out. I've got a border collie, so she needs walking all the time. Plus, not needing, I want to walk her a lot. And, even just the baseline bottom of everything we're saying here, where I see the fear, if you're walking down the pavement. One, I don't see many people out and about anymore, but outside, I mean, I did during COVID, may I add. I saw everyone on the exercising on the oval, which was beautiful. As soon as all that changed, everyone's back inside. But it's reverse psychology. Tell everybody to stay inside, they go out. But we should just have a law. You're not allowed out. Everyone will be out. But, you know, I'm walking down the street and people will avoid you. They will cross over to avoid having to walk past you. And then there's some other people that won't cross it, but they won't even look at you as they walk past. For me, that blows my absolute mind. Why can't we? Why are you so anxious just to look at me and give me a smile? I will give you the biggest smile that hopefully may change the trajectory of your day. You know what I mean? And I see it every day on this tiny little estate that I live on. And so with you then, so people can paint a picture of some of the things you've gone. You know, a lot of people haven't been to Australia. You know, I have a lot of people who will listen to this in America and the UK. Where did you grow up and paint the picture? Because it's small. There's a lot of small towns here in Australia, isn't there? And when you say men in small towns, sometimes people dream of living in a little small town, a little village. But the little villages here are not always what they seem to be.
Yeah, like that town, that's was 12,000 people back in the day, farming.
Yeah.
So my mum's family were farmers.
Where was it?
Farming, so wheat farming and sheep farming. So, you know, on the land, that type of thing. Mum used to ride a horse to school.
Oh, wow.
That sort of thing. And, yeah, so pretty natural, you know, sort of. And I was my dad come from Warrnambool where his dad died when he was quite young. So he had to, help the family. He left school at 14, I think. And he went out fishing and caught rabbits, you know, hunted for their food. That type of thing. They lived at a great spot in Warrnambool in Victoria where he could just walk out the backyard and catch fish. So do that, go out in boats. And, you know, I never really honoured that at the time. But I would think back on how wonderful it actually was for him, you know. He was a really happy bloke all his life. But I shouldn't say that. I think he had moments of depression but didn't know it. But that was only born because he was like, you know, maybe drinking too much or whatever. I don't know. But, yeah, he never understood that probably some of those depressive moments were due to, you know, past things that he hadn't dealt with. Or, you know, the father thing was never dealt with. You know, it's very similar to what happened with me with Damien, just put it in the pocket and just get on with it. Yeah. You know, so yeah, I think we need to get better at that expression, getting that in that expression lane. But yeah, my family, and you know, my family very much third dimensional. So they watch the news, they'll, you know, do those standard things, go to the doctor all the time, you know, that do what the doctor tells them, do what the TV tells them. And I guess, you know, a few of them have started to look to me to say, well, you're doing something different and it's working. What is it? And they'll try it for a while, but then they'll go back to their old ways, you know. So it's up to them as individuals to say, I want to do something to change here now. And, you know, that's where the holistic nutrition comes in handy because my stepbrother had cancer and, you know, I sort of gave him some advice around that. And that probably helped him on his journey to heal it.
Did he heal it?
Yeah, look, he's good now. Absolutely. Yeah.
What did he do to heal it then?
Well, I think he used a combination of clinical and a combination of natural to, you know, get things back into balance again, you know. And so if you look
homeostasis.
Yeah, that's right. Well, when I say stepbrother, different father to mine, but his father left him when he was 2, and you know, there's a lot of stuff in him that I can see still to this day has been suppressed, and I sometimes find it very hard to talk to him about complex things because he won't go there, you know. And that's when cancer starts showing up in the body and these things start happening. And if you're just on this reactive cycle all the time and actually understanding that there's a reason why this is being caused, that can be emotional or physical or external, you know, be curious enough to ask those questions. So that, you know, examples like my brother and that are very common in a community like Horsham. You know, where you just work, you eat shit, you know, you drink and go around in that loop. And there's, you know, some interventions in place now where people will go to the gym and they'll, you know, do some healthy things. But I think we've got a long way to go to be able to help those communities which were born on agriculture, which were born on, survival, to actually start to get a bit better at looking after their own individual self. I think that's really key. And I guess I've been the one that's sort of broken the cycle within my own family. And that's helped my kids, but also I think it can help the family unit more broadly as well.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
And the little town that you grew up in, where was it? What was it called?
It's in so it's Horsham in country Victoria, which is in Australia.
I remember you saying that. Yeah. Horsham,
so
yeah.
between Melbourne and Adelaide, and I still have a strong connection to the place. Part of me really wants to be there and live there. I actually went back in 2017 after my mum died. My dad sort of was struggling. He went into care, but I felt a real call to actually come and be around him. So I was working with the Tasmanian government, like doing health advising the staff at the time. I left that job and I thought, what am I going to do when I go back? So I went and became a yoga teacher, and I went back to the community and started to teach yoga. And little by little, in an ambivalent community, people started to turn up and they started to feel better, and it started to have a big impact. So the 3 years that I had back there in that town really transformed a lot of people's lives, and I still to this day get people reaching out to me, So we got a men's circle going there, and that's helping the community. And that's run by local guys that I've trained to run them, which are doing a wonderful job. And that's what I needed when I was a young bloke, to have a space like that to go to talk about what happened to Damien and my own experiences in that too. And that's saved lives in that town since it's happened. It's saved families in that town. It's actually got blokes to shift gears with their own thinking and their own relationship with themselves. And that's the whole idea, is to help people understand that communication and expressing your emotions is normal, suppressing them is not. And that's what I've been brought up around. If something happens, you drink. Something good happens, you drink. If you're feeling a bit down about something, you drink. So it's sort of not the right mindset, but they've done a great job of pushing us down that pathway to think that's what brings us happiness, but it's not.
Yeah. Where did we get so ashamed of our emotions? It's bizarre, isn't it, where that stemmed from? Because we've all felt it, haven't we? We've all felt shamed of how we felt, or embarrassed. If it maybe embarrassed is the better word. Shame, I don't know, because shame is an emotion, isn't it, within itself?
It is. I wrote a book about it.
Yes, you did. Anxiety, didn't you? I remember. I wanted to bring that up, actually. I want a front cover of your book, by the way, so I want to be able to display it. Talk to us about your book around anxiety.
I wrote it about 7 or 8 years ago. So it's just to talk about my own life journey and how those feelings were part of my life, all the way through, and in that survival mode. And what I did to break the cycles, and what I do to keep myself, in a balanced state. So talk about the life experience, and then I talk about, okay, these are some of the interventions you can put in place to be able to help you, and these are some of the things you can do with your diet to be able to get your body, into a state of fluidity again, and that type of thing, homeostasis. So combining that with movement, meditation, and natural therapy. You can get on top of your life again, but it takes commitment. It takes 40 days, 120 days, 1,000 days of commitment to something to really make that change, And we've all got the ability to do that, but the mind will always take us back to temptation or pleasure, as you said.
Yes.
I'm just going to go and do this. I'm going to go and do that. But as soon as you can be self-aware enough, and that comes through discipline, to break those cycles and stop it, that's when we can make change. And that's why I wrote the book. And that helped a lot of people in Horsham. So when I was back there, I wrote it, and people picked it up, and wives gave it to their husbands, mothers gave it to their sons, and they read it, and it's really, really helped a lot of people. So probably should really get it republished and get it out there more. People can buy it on Amazon and Booktopia and that. But it's just
I'd love to get a copy. Put it on here. I want to get. I've got a few of my guests just recently. Actually, I've just put them up. this person I'm interviewing next week just sent me this through the post, and
Oh, righto. Yeah.
I've got quite a lot of guest books up here, so I'd love to get a copy of yours somehow. So yeah, send me a
Yeah.
link or whatever.
I'll see what I can do. But yeah, if you look on our website, you'll see it in the About section.
Yep,
It's in there. But
it's a
yeah,
beautiful
I'll see
website,
what-
by the way.
Oh, lady, well, that's the thing. Being a charity lady does it for free. Her husband had issues, mental health issues, and she wanted to help out. So, so she takes good care of it, which is great. And have all these wonderful guys running circles in their own communities as volunteers.
Amazing.
And that's been my message. I really got distracted recently by getting some people on our board, that drove down the compliance and the corporate model, and I didn't like that. So I've had to step away from it all and say, right, we're going to get back to basics again and, reset, because, I don't want to become Movember. I don't want to become, these big corporations with mental health. It's about grassroots stuff, and it's about, caring, compassion for our brothers at the end of the day, and moving away from separation to connection again. I think it's really the whole message behind it all.
Yeah, you got some beautiful messages, and it's that big. You've got a lot. I've got a few pictures of you stood under some billboards. Incredible.
Yeah, that's a billboard I've got up on the highway, just to try and help raise awareness around. Okay, it stops with you rather than you doing something silly and then getting punished for it. So if someone sees that and they go home and they behave better, it's a good thing. And because there's so many, like in Australia, so many Band-Aid fixes, White Ribbon Day, Domestic Violence Month, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's another one just to try and normalise men's circles.
Yeah.
And I've done that pretty well with no funding, and those billboard companies have helped me out.
Very well. Do they charge you for that then?
The DV one we get charged for. The other, I've got another two, and they don't charge for them. But
Beautiful.
just to try and survive financially as a charity, is a challenge. But
sure.
I just keep chipping away at it, and I'm sure we're gonna hopefully help a few people. And I know we already have a lot of people. I suppose the more reach and more awareness we can get out there, the better. And that's really my job in this lifetime, I guess. That's what I've had to go through, all the challenges to get towards. And that's what I mentioned before. Like, we've all got our own journey in this life, and we can always change it at any time.
Choices, right? We all come, damn choices. We all have choices. We just got to see that light to help those small little 1% changes first. That's where we begin. Not the big changes, not these New Year resolutions. They're just too big. One step, if you're depressed and you can't get out of bed, you know what? Walk to the toilet or walk to the edge of the room. Next day, walk down the hallway. If it's the third or the week later and you're walking in your back garden, and then before you know it, in a week, you might be walking down the street, just little things.
Just got to be determined and committed to yourself, and not understanding you're not staying in the victim all the time. As soon as you can start to heal the victim and understand, okay, this is why I feel like because of these reasons, I'm not going to feel anger. I'm going to feel compassion for those individuals or who it was, so I can move out of it. And it's hard to do that because being a male primarily, you have got that, that masculine tendency. But as soon as you can move towards it and not react and be proactive, that's when you can start to really heal and change yourself and help others do the same thing.
Yeah.
I think it's key,
A couple of things then before we go. You had another thing affect you in your life growing up as a young adult. I think you were fairly young. I remember you telling me in the pre-chat, living in these small towns. When I first came here, it was a bit of a culture shock. I lived in Ballarat briefly. My friend who I was living with went and worked in Ararat, so I stayed in Ararat, and all I saw at night was people where there's a roundabout on either side and people would just go cruising. Just these young people going up and down in the car around because they didn't really have much to do in these towns. There wasn't a movie theatre. Well, Ballarat there was, but Ararat, I didn't remember a movie theatre. There was barely anything there. There was a little jail over there and the cute, or whatever. You can see the picture I'm trying to paint. So cars were a big thing. And I know something happened to you regarding your license. Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.